What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday show. It is 2/2/22. We are pre-Super Bowl, and we are in the midst of off-season shenanigans.
As per usual.
Per usual, correct. With me, as always, my co-host, Mike Restando. You can find him on Twitter at Bonzo1273, and you can find me on Twitter at Mike Killy. And so today we've got some interesting topics to cover. We've got, controversy on Twitter that always seems to happen day in and day out with this fan base. We have Hugh Jackson coming out saying that he was paid to lose games back from his time with the Browns. So I guess we can dig into. We've got some other rumors spreading around about from the front office who they're interested in, what they're looking to do. Could the wide receiver in the first round be just a smoke screen for something else? A whole bunch of fun stuff to get into. But kicking it off, Mike, I don't know if you saw the girl gang team is at it on Twitter with controversy about Baker posing for a picture without wearing his sling.
Oh, the infamous sling picture.
The sling picture. Which when I saw that picture, I noticed he wasn't wearing any sling or anything like that too, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. Like he's able to take it off and and not have that on there just a couple of days after surgery. That's fantastic. That's great news. I thought it was interesting, not tweet worthy,
right?
But interesting nonetheless. And that seemed to have blown up in their face. I take no pleasure in that, although. For some reason they jump into my at mentions whenever they decide that I said something inappropriate, which sometimes I do. So that's kind of how that's gone down. And then also while we're at it, then you get the whole Brian Flores thing, how he's suing the NFL, for all the stuff that's gone down with him with the Dolphins. Comes out, says he was being offered to $100,000 to lose games for the Dolphins because they wanted to, I guess, tank for Trevor that one season. He was like, nope, not going to do it. And boom, he can't get another job. Although all he did was basically win with mediocre teams, yet he can't seem to get a job in the NFL. So he's claiming that there may be some racial discrimination going on with that. And he claims to have some sort of proof of that as well. So then as that's happening, Hugh Jackson, the historically losingest coach in NFL history, is chimes in on it as well and says that he was paid by the Haslam. We got a super chat that just came in. It says by Inyasha, can't wait for Baker to join the Washington Commanders next year. Yeah, Mike, did you see I saw your tweet about the Commander. What a terrible, did they crowdsource that? Did they have any focus groups on this to see how that would possibly come across?
The name is horrible, but let's get that out of the way. If someone said to me, hey, I'm going to give you a name of a sports team, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And if they said Commander, I would think of like some old white crusty dude with a disheveled beard manning a battleship somewhere, right? Like I'm not thinking a football team. So the jerseys,
Admirals would have been better.
Yeah, the Admirals would have been better. And I guess that's actually what I just described. But take them off the boat and put them next to a tank, and I guess we'll get the Commander there.
Yeah,
I'm mixing up my armed forces, but neither here nor there. Then you go to the uniforms, and that was a lot to unpackage.
Ooh.
Because and I'll be honest, the red ones or maroon ones that are their colors, they don't bother me too much. That's okay. But the Arena League and the USFL jerseys that
the black
that
ones
made up the other two, we're just atrocious.
And did you see what they were doing, like with their numbers? They had they had like a bunch of just weird design stuff going on with the numbers, and then the W in the front of the helmet.
I'll be honest. I think the numbers look better on the helmet than that horribly designed W.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, I thought the Browns uniform, the old ones that we just came from, were bad, but this is up there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's literally up there with those uniforms. It's and you know the Falcons had a horrible uniform redo. You know, I think the Lions did okay. I think the Rams did okay with theirs. I don't love them, like with the cream color white.
Yeah.
And the weird label on the jersey and stuff like that. Like there's just, you know, something to be said. But anyway, Inyasha thinks that Baker's going to Washington. Who knows? Norman's also here. Hello from Sierra Vista, Arizona. Hello, Norman. I don't think Baker's going to Washington. I think there's probably a decent chance you might see it. Either they're going to stick with Heineke, they're going to draft somebody, or maybe they go after like a Jimmy G or something like that. I don't know. Like what are we hearing? What are you hearing from the Browns insiders about the direction or anything? Has anything changed in terms of like what's going on with Baker right now?
Well, the interesting thing is, and we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, that all things are on the table when it comes to the quarterback position with this team. They are looking to upgrade the position. So whether that's healthy Baker Mayfield or that's someone they feel can lead this franchise for the next 10, 15 years in the draft, that's who it is. Or it could be somebody that, so maybe Minnesota's looking to deal. It's no secret that Kwesi is friends with Andrew, and Andrew basically groomed him. So, there's going to be some dialogue there, and I think it'll be less Kirk Cousins, more maybe Hunter, a couple other guys on the team that might be attractive. But I do know that the Browns are chatting it up with the quarterbacks down at the Senior Bowl, and I mean that's not really quote unquote news. I mean, they talk to everybody.
Yeah.
But as I understand, Kenny Pickett and the Browns, that was the first conversation for him in the first team. So, I mean, it's interesting.
Here's the thing like that. And when I saw that report that came out and I sent that over to you, I'm sure you saw it as well. It's just interesting to me. I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe in just like, oh, it just happened to be the first team we talked to. I mean, it almost seemed like, the Browns are, let's go over and talk to him. Let's go check him out. And that kind of thing. Because why? Out of all the positions they need, out of all the stuff out there, why that guy? It's just if I'll tell you this, if we end up drafting him, you can look back to this and go, well, I mean, they were definitely tempted at that point. They wanted to check him out, and they like what they heard. They like what they saw.
I can't get away from that picture I sent you. I mean, his hands look tiny, and I mean, he's known to have the smallest hands in the draft class, and that's fine. I believe Derek Carr had small hands as well, and you see that's not hurting him one way or the other in the NFL. But looking at that picture, I mean, they were tiny. Like he did narrow down his fumbles as he went, but I mean, they were over 4 years. I think he had 28 or 30 fumbles. So, it's interesting. And the word down there after yesterday, I haven't heard anything today, but Pickett looked great, making all the throws. They said Malik Willis was having a little bit of trouble in throws outside the numbers. Other than that, though, he was pretty solid. Ritter, right? Is the name Ritter?
Mm-hmm.
From Cincinnati?
Desmond.
They said that he looked okay. And actually, I think he might have, it's either him or Carson Strong. One of them, they were a little erratic. But I do know that the Browns did speak to Malik Willis as well today. So take that for what it is. Again, they talked to everybody, but they did speak to Pickett and Willis.
I mean, I got to tell you, like, Mid's plug is here, so he wouldn't take a quarterback. Norman says he wouldn't take a quarterback. Xander's in the house. Ray's in the house as well. Trill Hill is here. Yeah, we'll talk about Hugh Jackson Trill. But I think I got to tell you, like, there's nobody exciting in this draft. But looking back last year, if you would have told me that we were going to go and pick, Mac Jones, I would have been not really excited either. So he looks to be a bona fide professional quarterback, and I think he's going to be around and do very, very well. His rookie year, he did exceptional, in my estimation. And he looks like an NFL quarterback. He plays, the way, just everything about him screams like this guy's going to be around for a long time. He might be an Andy Dalton, but he's going to be a decent player. But then you look at these guys, look at who's in the Super Bowl. You've got Joe Burrow, who when the Bengals have bad seasons, and they do it once every decade, they have a horrible season, and they happen to fall ass backwards into an exceptional quarterback. It started off with Carson Palmer, and then right after that you go into Dalton, who had took them to the playoffs, did well, never competed for a Super Bowl, and then they fall back after Dalton. They fall right into Joe Burrow, and in his second year, he takes him to the Super Bowl.
I mean, and you could even say, is it really a true second year? I mean, he missed a lot of time with that knee injury, so
it's if the Bengals win the Super Bowl, it will be a referendum on these like it takes 10 years to rebuild a team.
Well, and that brings up an interesting point in terms of what Hugh Jackson said at 6:00 on ESPN tonight. And, I'm interested, to be honest with you, I'm interested to see these papers that he has in terms of, what the actual incentive at the end of the year looked like for losing as he, quote unquote, presented it. But really, when you think about what went on there, they literally told us that, it's going to be a big rebuild, right? I mean, that wasn't a secret.
Yeah.
And we knew this, right? That it was a multi-year rebuild. But then, you hear him talking about it today, and, 4-year plan they had, and they didn't have them winning until 3 or 4, the third or fourth year. And it's like, come on. I mean, you look at the Bengals. They found the quarterback. I mean, you and I could play offensive line for them. It doesn't matter, right? It just doesn't matter. And I was pondering this in the shower, and I'm totally derailing us, but I'll totally forget about this. I was pondering this in the shower yesterday. So I was thinking about the Bengals. Their offensive line is not that great, right? I mean, they're not even that good. Would we agree?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay. So they had success with Joe Mixon, but they didn't have success like, we had success with Chubb and Hunt, or how, a healthy Derrick Henry runs with Tennessee, right? They ran when they had to, and then the rest of the time you've got a stud behind, under center, and he's dropping back and he's just finding open guys and he's dealing. And Jamar Chase, figured out how to catch the ball without the round white circle on it. And, he made plays and was able to get separation. Long story short, if you look at our offensive line, they're hurt all year, right? And I was thinking about this. These guys are always hurt. And it is Shower Thoughts with Mike. And it is the greatest segment of the show. I think it's the new segment of the show. I don't know if I've ever had Shower Thoughts before,
Thoughts with Mike.
This could be day one.
These are the moments when he gets going. I just let him go.
Yeah. I mean,
just let him go.
2-2-2-2 starts shower thoughts with Mike. But anyway,
Yeah,
back to my shower thought. So if you take our offensive line, I mean, they're hurt every other week, right? And why are they hurt every other week? Because we're playing Neanderthal football, right? Run, 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 right? So you look then at Cincinnati, and it almost is not supposed to happen like this. But if you've got a guy that can pass and has presence in the pocket like Joe Burrow,
mm-hmm.
and you've got the weapons that he has, it doesn't matter. All those guys have to do is stand up and just hold them off until he could find somebody.
Well,
if you look across the season, their offensive line wasn't hurt much at all, right? But you take our guys constantly taking a pounding, constantly getting hit from behind. Just something to think about.
Well, I think this, if you look at the teams that were in the playoffs, you had teams like the Packers, the Packers, the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Cowboys, the Bucks, the Eagles, the Raiders, the Patriots, the Bills, Bengals. None of those teams I would describe as a running team. The Titans, you could say, I wouldn't even say that the Titans are a running team. I think they have a very good running back, but they didn't build the team around the running back necessarily. They built the team in a very balanced way, and they just happen to have a very exceptional running back. Like, I think the Cowboys have an exceptional running back, but they didn't build the team around him, right? This is a passing league, and we built a running team.
Absolutely.
That's what we did. And we looked at it and they said, okay, we have this weapon, Nick Chubb. He's awesome. And now we got Kareem Hunt. Awesome. We got bang, bang. We got Batman and Robin. And then Dearness Johnson just comes out of nowhere and it's like, all right, he's pretty good too. And that was the whole thing. But the fact that Stefanski recognized that the team can recognize that we have a very capable third running back, very capable, right? And we never figured out offensive packages to put both Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb on the field at the same time. I think it's sad. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to build an offense, but like a third down or something like that, third down and have put them in a pro set, do something to have both of those guys out there because you have to account for them. And then swap it, and then if they both get tired, put in Dearness Johnson, Janovich, put him back there for a down or two, let the other guys get a breather. I mean, I felt like our offense was like pedestrian. I felt like it was old 50s football at some points where we're lining up in what seems to be, what seemed to look like a goal line situation.
I mean, it's like the old dust cloud football, right? Like right when Otto Graham, like right when the passing
exactly
game.
What I was thinking.
Yeah,
no
like
face
right when
mask.
Yeah, exactly. Right when the passing game was birthed, right? Is that how you say that?
Sure.
Was that's sort of what our offense looks like. It's just run with that clouded dirt, and then
you know what, Mike?
Try and throw a little bit.
The funny thing is, when they're all healthy, it was actually working. It was really working. We were able to move the ball, and then if you think about last year, think about how many times we had like a third and 8, 3rd and 9, and we'd hand the ball off and we'd get the first down. And we'd be like, oh my God, we're going to keep this drive alive. And then it turned into points. We just willed ourselves to it. And then you got to late third quarter into the fourth quarter, and we would just run it out. To the point where Nick Chubb was running out of bounds instead of scoring a touchdown, right? I mean, we just stiff-arming guys in the rain. And that all works when you have the guys that are healthy. But then when you have to conserve Nick, and then you don't trust Dearness as much as the kind of weapon that Kareem Hunt is. Kareem Hunt is a dynamic running back who could start on 80%, 90% of the teams in the league. Kareem Hunt would start, right? 90%.
Yeah.
And
easy.
we use him as a like 40% of the time type of running back, which is good because maybe we're going to extend both of their careers longer than where they all happen to hit that wall at about 28, 29. Maybe we extend them to 30, 30, 32. Who knows? But the bottom line is we have a running team with a running / tight end first team. And we run pretty well, but it allows defenses to scheme against us really easily. And that's why you saw 8-9 men in the box for basically 2/3 of the season. 8-9 men in the box and said, go ahead and beat us. And then we had errors. We had poor execution from out of the quarterback position. We had penalties. We had poor execution out of the tight end and wide receiver position from the drop passes, or routes running the wrong way, or too many men on the field, or illegal shift. And it was just like nonstop.
And everything you're saying right there, really, if you get to the heart of that, to me, everything you just threw out there is discipline, which then goes back to the coaching staff. And I don't, not to go there, but I think that's a big part of it as well. I mean, when you look at all the false starts and just in penalties in general, and poor execution, wrong routes. How many times we watch the all 22 and one guy's on top of the other guy? That's not how the route tree works. And where does that all circles back to the head coach. So I don't think anybody is exempt. And I think, and don't anybody misunderstand what I'm saying here. I'm not saying get rid of the coach or a revolving door. But the point that I'm going to make is, if you look around the league, everywhere around you, you can find teams that fired their coach, hired a new one, got their guys, and won or are winning within 3 years, right? You look at the Bengals, 2 years, they're in the Super Bowl.
Worst team in the league, from worst team in the league to Super Bowl.
So it could be done. It's all around us. So, is it crazy to think that next year, if we get this same product, that Stefanski and company won't be on the hot seat? No, I don't think that's far-fetched, because in today's NFL, if you make the right decision, and I mean, that's been the hard part for us in Cleveland, but if you make the right decision, you can go ahead and you could turn something around in a couple of years, as opposed to these ludicrous, 3, 4, 5-year plans. You look around the league. I mean, look at the Rams. It didn't take them 5 years. It didn't take Cincinnati 5 years. I mean, the Eagles stink. They win a Super Bowl. They're mediocre. They stink for a little while. Back in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Cowboys, same thing. I mean, you could go all through the league, and you could find organizations that sort of went into a lull, or they started losing, and they make a change, and it works, and they're competitive again, and they're in the playoffs. So, I mean, next year will be, or this year I should say, will be, it's a big year for everybody involved.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
What my dad has been saying is it's really going to come down to the first couple games of the season, because if we come out and if Baker plays like he played in the back half of this season, where he's throwing multiple interceptions in games, 4 interceptions a game, I mean, he's going to get booed out of the stadium. And I mean, the team was already getting booed, which I think impacted him, mentally in a very negative way. I mean, he left Cleveland this year to go get surgery, and I mean, he basically left the team where players were bashing him privately, that are getting leaked out there, saying that he took an early vacation, didn't want to finish the season with the team, and a whole bunch of garbage that was out there. And we're going to have to see, because this is going to be the season. This is going to be the one that's going to make or break it. Because if, I think you're right, and you said this before, that they're not going to let Stefanski go before he has a chance to pick his guy. And if Andrew Berry as well. And if Andrew Berry and if guys are getting hired from underneath Andrew Berry, then other people respect what's going on. And Andrew's going to get a chance to pick his quarterback.
Yeah. And that's what you might be seeing right now down at the Senior Bowl, the start of it.
They're certainly looking at him because I personally think, Mike, I don't think that we draft a quarterback in the first round. I think all of the concerns that you and I have had, the fact that there's really nobody out there that's a blue chip,
unless they check all the boxes on their list of what they're looking for, and we're just not. I mean, Kenny Pickett's a solid quarterback. There's no doubt about that. Willis has some promise, but
they have to look at it, Mike, and they have to go, if you draft a quarterback in the first round at 13, that's not like drafting a quarterback at like 29. You're drafted a quarterback at 13.
I think they'd have to move up. Somebody's going to be,
or even that.
Yeah, I mean, somebody
moving into 8 or 9 to get him.
Yeah, because I mean, whoever the clear-cut one is, and right now everybody is pointing the finger at Kenny Pickett. If he is the guy, like we just talked about, and we've seen this doing our mocks, which is pretty cool. You're going to have to get up to, I think it was 8, Mike, that you have to get up to in order
to have a
shot at that quarterback.
So, I mean, that brings up an interesting thing. My dad was actually texting me earlier thinking that we do three drafts at the same time, where I pick players, you pick players. And I was like, it's going to be too confusing, Dad. I was like, I don't know how I don't know how I would manage that. But I like the idea. And I offered him, like, you can come on and make the picks.
We could try, but we might wind up sending the wrong text message to somebody.
Oh, right. Dad, you can still come on and make the picks if you want to make them, or just help us do it. But he's saying that my dad's saying drafting a quarterback is a smokescreen. So
it could be.
It could be. I'm like, I just think of like, I don't know. I look at it and I go, if they look at the tape of Baker, pre-injury, post-injury, everything coming into it, right?
Yeah.
Including the talking to the coaches, talking to the other, or getting the feeling from the other players. I mean, it's more than what you're just doing on the field. It's what you're doing on the field. It's who you are as a person. It's what you mean in that locker room.
And
it's the whole package.
And I can interject there for a second, and I can tell you that they know, and they're not necessarily fond of the drama that constantly follows 6. I can tell you that for a fact. So that's out there.
Well, I mean, and when you're not winning games, right? When you take a step backwards in your development and you don't meet expectations. If we would have made the playoffs this year, and even if we got knocked out first round, if we would have made the playoffs for 2 years in a row, I think I really do think everyone would have looked at it and been like, look, we've got a quarterback with half an arm. We've got other guys that are banged up.
We've perception.
We have, but it would have just said, "Hey, we're not crumbling." And in a million years, I did not sit there and say, "Oh, we're not going to make the playoffs this year," or have a losing record, or I just wouldn't have thought that. And so they failed. They failed us all this year, right? They
absolutely.
What is the thing that Karn said? What was it? They betrayed us. The Browns,
when he got raked on that one.
They betrayed us this year. And
I think I was as soon as I don't know why, but when I first saw it, and then when you just brought it up, as soon as you say that, like, I don't know why, but I picture like the Gladiator, like someone betraying somebody, and like they're gonna go into the Coliseum and take care of it.
Yeah, I just look at it like that was a wild tweet. But
I think disappointed would have been a solid
the Browns
choice
disappointed us, and they absolutely did. And I think that is the biggest thing that everybody has to look at it. And I'm sure that they're looking at a lot of tape, going, "Here's the good, here's the bad. This is the ceiling that we think he can get to." Right? Because he doesn't seem to be a guy who's staying there till midnight studying film. He just doesn't seem to be that guy.
He better start.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's something you can just turn into. Like you look at Tom Brady, those guys, Peyton Manning, that's what they loved.
You mean Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, they don't play Halo at night?
Halo. I mean, it was like Halo, call it. It was everything. I mean,
they study the playbook all. And you know what? It's funny because people, I mean, that's like a standing joke. Like, what do you want to do? You want them to look at the playbook over and over? Not really, but I mean, you take, gym rats like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers,
like film rats.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably the choice of words I should have used. But yeah, I mean, those guys take every ounce of their time to watch film, right? So and you know what I could liken this to, honestly? I always had, and you and I have talked about this. I used to play Madden all the time and some video games, and I was pretty damn good at them, especially Madden. Like, no, I'd beat everybody. But there comes a time when, for me, my profession for many years was a musician. And there were times that I wanted to watch where I wanted to play video games, right? And then there were other times where, I had bought several guitars and I thought, I'm going to dabble. And then every time I would go to dabble or I would think about playing a video game, the first thing that came to mind was this. Can I really afford to go play a video game? Can I really go afford to start teaching myself chords on the guitar? Because right now, there's many other drummers on the scene that are probably practicing right now. Other teachers, they're practicing right now. So when they get into the practice room tomorrow, they get out to the gig, they've got some of the new stuff that maybe they want to show their students, or, some type of lick or fill that you want to throw out there at a show. And you can't do that playing video games. So I sacrificed a lot of time in my life from recreational type of things to sit down at my drum kit and play, or sit down on my practice pad and play, because unless I was playing over and over and over again and always a student of the game, there's always somebody that's going to one up you.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at football, and especially the quarterback position, I mean, that's huge, because, instead of playing an hour or two of a video game, you could watching film, and maybe you found that trigger of how, when the weak side backer has a tell and he's going to blitz, and you can capitalize on that. So just a little food for thought.
I remember when I was in high school, we had my family and I, we had driven up to the Pittsburgh area to go skiing. I was in high school and we were playing in the state championships, the state playoffs. And we were up there, so we taped a game versus a team that it was whoever won this game we were going to play the next week in the district championship. And so we're up there and we're like, wow, we got a chance to watch this. So we taped it. And my dad and I watched that film probably like 4 or 5 times. And so that was the first time that I actually got to like study and look at film. And then I don't know if we gave it to the team or somebody had the tape of the game. So we ended up watching that tape as a team. Like the whole football team sat in there and watched it. And I remember I was in the tape room, and I knew exactly what it was. I knew who the players were on the other teams and stuff like that. And I was able to call out what they were doing just by the formation because I memorized it. I was like, oh, this is an ISO. This is going to be a sweep. This is going to be a slant, whatever. I was calling it out as it was happening. And the people they didn't know that I had the tape. They didn't know I had watched it many times before. So everybody's, after about the third time of me calling out, and I didn't do it every play, but it was like every second or third play, I'm like, oh, this is an ISO up the middle. And they are all looking at me like, how do you know this? And I'm like, I'm looking at the formation. I can see, I know these are basic high school plays. I don't know. But the point is, it is really easy to look at and to see like, okay, this is what the defense is doing. This is what it is. And then on the flip side of it, The worst thing is, I mean, you and I watch enough Browns that we know what the plays are that they have in their playbook at this point. I mean, we may not be able to call out the actual, like, the readout of the play, but I know when Harrison Bryant goes into motions to the left, and then kind of trickles back into like an offset eye, they're running the ball, or they have, or it's a play action, and but it's one of two things, and 80% of the time they're just running the ball to that side of the field, right? So it's like, if we know this stuff, other teams have their quality control people that are watching the games, that are studying, they're doing all this stuff, so they're getting those answers as well. Which is going to allow their players to, it's allow their coaches to go to their players and be like, hey, if you see this motion, if you see this is what they do most of the time. But protect against the bootleg, because it could come off of play action. I mean, these are guys. We think of football. We think of the football that you and I played in high school, maybe that you played in college a little bit, which was like, okay, here's the play, run the play.
Right.
These guys go up to the line of scrimmage, and a guy like Baker or Jarvis, they know based off of the defense that they're showing, what they could, the route could be 2 or 3 different things. And the quarterback has to know that, and the wide receiver. That's a professional player. That is not a guy who's just a fast runner or the most athletic guy in the field. Those guys are smart. They're thinking about what the best way to get open is, or the best thing to do. That's why sometimes when you see quarterbacks who, a guy's flying down the field on the sideline, and a quarterback throws the ball like where they're thinking that it was going to be a hook route, and he throws it behind him, and then the quarterback's like, what's going on? I mean, because that's what the route should have been based off of that design. So these guys have all of this. They have the ability to do that. And my point is, I feel like our offense was very, very basic. And which is so disappointing, because what we saw Kevin Stefanski's first year was this dynamic offense, this offense that we hadn't seen, these points that we hadn't seen. But again, I digress, because I do think as well, I think two of the biggest problems, actually 3 of the biggest problems that we had this year was injuries, penalties, and special teams failures. If we can fix, I mean, you can never really do anything about injuries. They happen. You can't do anything about it. They try to do everything. They try to vaccinate everybody. They try to do all this stuff for COVID. It still happens. So every team deals with injury. There's no team that doesn't. But penalties, that doesn't happen. Watch these playoff games. Like, if you're watching the playoff games, you're not seeing flags all over the damn field. And then occasionally, there's going to be flags, but like, you and I can see it as fans. Oh, that was holding, or oh, that was a false start, right? So that stuff happens. So we have to get better from a discipline perspective. I think our players are older and should be better at that. And then special teams, we have to find a kicker. We cannot leave points on the damn field. Look at the Kansas City game. Kansas City left points on the field. They could have gone up 4 scores. You have a chance to go up four scores, which is essentially won you the game, right? Because you're playing, at that point, you're just playing the clock. You could have gone up 4 scores, but you get greedy and you try to go up by 4 big scores. That's not a win condition. It doesn't matter if you win by 1 or you win by 50. A win is a win in the playoffs. It does not matter. We have to find somebody who can make kicks, both field goals and, God forbid, consistent extra points. Because I'll tell you what, that demoralizes an offense. It really does. When you work your tail off and you get in an end zone, and then they miss an extra point and it turns your effort into 2 field goals, that hurts. It feels weird, but it does. Right? So those are things that we have to fix. And going back to the whole point of the whole conversation, like, are we going to do that with 6? Or are we going to do it with one of these other guys? And I got to tell you, unfortunately, I think this is it's an unfortunate year to have a quarterback problem.
No, and it seems like every time we're at that crossroads, we either don't have the top pick, or we do, and there's not a, Andrew Luck in the draft, or you're down where we are now, and the talent pool is just okay. Again, I mean, what we see and what a professional front office sees can be, could be two different things.
Yeah.
And, it could be smoke talking to Kenny Pickett, or it could be the real deal. I mean, personally, I get it. And, you talk to everybody at the Senior Bowl, but I don't know. I think if you're confident in who you have calling your plays, I'm not so sure that you're chatting up multiple quarterbacks at at a Senior Bowl game, practice, whatever.
Yeah.
That's just my 2 cents. But what we talked about earlier as well is if you're not winning, and they won last year, but again, I mean, I can't be the only one that sees, last year with the no fans and no noise, etc. And you can't be the only one that sees that. And the people that I've had conversation with live and in person or on Twitter, they see it. So it's just not us, right? So there's that thought process out there that, hey, last year was an anomaly, right? So again, bringing it back to the beginning of the show, the clock is always ticking. And the last thing that and and I won't throw the name out there, but I was very good personal friends with a previous general manager of this team. And so I know how they think and what they look for. And I can tell you, nobody wants to lose their job without their guy. That I could tell you. That is factual. So if they've come to a crossroads, the two of them, meaning Barry and Stefanski, because does Haslam have some say in it? Sure, he's the owner, but these two guys in Deep Podesta, they're running the team. It's their hide on the line, so to speak. So when you get to this point, if they don't think that Baker is their guy, and there's somebody in this draft that is their guy that they feel like could successfully run this offense. And look, we talked about it earlier too. I mean, this is run, 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 and then some calculated passing. So if there's a guy out there that they feel can absolutely operate this offense, is accurate enough, smart enough, can read the defense good enough, they may pull the trigger on something like that because their time is ticking, and their time is ticking with somebody else's draft pick. So it's not far fetched. And we've said it a million times on here. It, they'll probably run it back with Baker.
Yep.
But if they see somebody out there that they like, do not be surprised if at the draft you hear a name called, or in the off season, somebody comes here that you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming. And I'm not saying like an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson, but just, middle of the pack upgrade. But I mean, like I said, they know the drama that goes on, and they don't like it. I could tell you that. They are aware of it, and they're not fond of it. So it would not surprise me in the least if they drafted a quarter. If somebody is in this draft that they like, that they pull the trigger on. Wouldn't surprise me in the least. I mean, you literally, we all want that wide receiver, but if these guys are like, hey, and we'll just throw Kenny Pickett out there just because that's the man of the hour. But if they're like, Kenny Pickett's the guy, we want him. We have 9 picks this year. We could package, a pick and move up and get him. Fine. And then they bring in a solid wide receiver in free agency, like a Christian Kirk or, an Allen Robinson, somebody that could play, right? I could certainly see them do it, because let me ask you this. What's the worst case scenario with this defense, right? If they were to go a different route at the quarterback position, I mean, you went 8-9 this year, right? So, I mean, you didn't make the playoffs, you regressed.
Mhm.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility that you roll the dice and say, hey, you know what? with exactly what I outlined 5 minutes ago about, if there's a kid in there, in the draft that they feel can run the offense, read the defense, put an accurate ball where an accurate ball is needed, then all bets are off. It could happen.
And I think I will tell you this: if it does happen, I think any Browns fan that's out there that would, I think most people would be fairly disappointed of how the Baker Mayfield era ended. And I think that everybody has got to have a certain level of appreciation for what Baker did. He actually did come in and change the culture of the team. He took us to the playoffs. He did what no other quarterback could do since Tim Couch and Kelly Holcomb. That is, it's the same thing with LeBron winning a championship in Cleveland. There is a certain amount of respect that goes out. It's not like winning a championship in LA or Boston or New York, right? Where they win championships like every other year and just whatever coin flip of a sport you want to play in. But this is Cleveland. We don't get championships all the time. And
Never.
so I think you got to look at what Baker did, and you have to have a certain level of appreciation. I mean, I think it really did take a guy who had to wake up feeling dangerous. We had to have that type of attitude on this team, and that attitude, as soon as Odell Beckham came into the building, changed.
But I will say this. Going back and watching that early tape, the man everybody wants to hate was open, and he was open often. We talk about the drops, and, of course you're going to have drops here and there. I mean, if you only could tee off 5 times, right? The odds of you having many good tee offs would be a little slimmer than if you had 18 of them, right? The average goes up. So, I mean, sure, he had some drops, but when you think back on it, like he had 4 passes thrown to him, and he just happened to drop the ball that, was, and I mean, if you look back on those, I mean, it's not like they were put like right in the breadbasket. I mean, there was a couple, but I mean, then you look at what's going on in LA, and Van Jefferson hasn't really stepped up to be the number 2, right? So OBJ is your 2 out there.
Well,
so it's not
Robert Woods is the number 2.
Well, no, but Robert Woods has been injured. That's what I'm saying. Like,
right.
It's only been Kupp, Jefferson, and OBJ, and Jefferson didn't step up to be that 2. So OBJ is that 2, and he's drawing double coverage at a lot of times, go figure, even with Kupp on the field. And you got Matthew Stafford back there who deals. And I mean, if you look at OBJ's numbers since he's been on LA, I mean, you can't deny it.
Oh, he's
got like 8 touchdowns. He had 3 in 3 years.
I think it's a couple things. Number one, I think their offense is designed as a pass first offense with a pass first, guy who Matthew Stafford could throw the ball 70 times a game and not have a problem. Baker Mayfield throwing the ball 70 times and it would like the sky would fall. So they're an offensive that's designed around the pass.
But he was open. He just couldn't find him.
Well, the other thing, and I think I'll get to that. I think the other thing with LA is he's not being asked to be the number 1. He's being asked to be the number 2 or 2.5. And when Robert Woods comes back, he's gonna be the 2A or 2B, right? He's gonna be.
He could or he couldn't. He may or may not.
He's not gonna be number 1. And he's not going to be asked.
Definitely not.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's not going to be number 1. So at this point in OBJ's career, I think this is what he's suited for. He is suited to be he's probably the best number 2 wide receiver in the league. But in Cleveland, he wasn't going to be the number 2. He's going to be the number 1. And so when he's drawing that double coverage all the time, Because again, if you're going to get beat by somebody, like have Rashard Higgins beat you, have Austin Hooper beat you, right? Have DPJ beat you, but you don't want to have OBJ beat you because you know that guy's is a weapon.
But he was open a lot. I saw it on film.
He was open a lot too, but I think the psyche of the quarterback, the psyche of the coach as well, goes in there and says, okay, if he's double covered 60% of the time, or he's going to be that, it just comes down to like, is Baker is his first read OBJ on every play, and he's not.
I don't think even Baker knew where his first read was, to be quite honest with you.
Well, I mean, I think he had a regression type year.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of things that went into that. And I think also, clearly, when you're a quarterback and you know that every throw that you make that is going to be criticized, the team's going to be shitting on you, players are going to be talking crap after the game, and it's just like, you could have a great game, you could win. You could have the game against the Bengals where the Browns were unbelievable. You come back the next week and are terrible, and everybody's shitting on you again, right? So it's like, I think it's tough. I think it was really tough for him. I don't think he had control of the locker room. I think, players on offense and players on offense and defense were they weren't for him. They weren't publicly coming out supporting the guy. The only one who really did was Case Keenum after he stepped in to take the job. The other guys didn't come out till later, Wyatt Teller and those guys, and they weren't like, hey, Baker's my guy, and I'm planting my flag in the ground. They were just asked about it, and he's like, no, Baker's our guy. Right? So, but they're all rushing to congratulate OBJ. Oh my gosh, he's in the Super Bowl. He did it. He got away from us. What a bitch move that is for me, to be honest. Like, I think that's whether he's your brother or Jarvis, fine. But like other players, like Mac Wilson going out there, OBJ, and if you read the response, read the responses. Well, I think it's a bitch move. The guy quit on them and shit on their teammate to better himself.
They don't think that way. That's how you and I think, and that's how everybody in the chat thinks. But those guys don't think. I mean, it's a different league now, right? It's more individuality than it is.
But it's not basketball. Team. And I mean, in basketball, you can do that because there's 5 guys.
No, I get it, but that's the mentality, and so that's why you're seeing what you're seeing, and that's another thing that I could tell you, they're not going to pick up Jarvis's contract, and when he is no longer employed by the Cleveland Browns, the stories are going to start coming out, and there's something going on, right? There's definitely something that went on that they don't like, and we'll eventually hear about it.
The weird thing with that, he brings them all down to Austin for the workouts, down there at Lake Travis, where they go out in the boat and everything in the preseason. They're putting all this stuff together. And again, like if you don't want to be there, if you don't want to be on this team, or you don't want this guy to be your leader, all those guys showed up.
Here's the thing, though. I'll give you
Chubb.
Yeah, I'll give you an example of a situation like that. So years ago, prior to my band that made a little noise, I had another band, and I really liked a bunch of guys, and they were good dudes, and they looked the part, but they just couldn't. Their talent wasn't to the point of where mine and my other band members were. But we liked them so much that we still worked out with them. Come over. We're gonna figure out how to make this work. And then eventually, you're like, man, I tried. We got together. We rehearsed 1,000 times, but I like you, man. But it's just not working. I got to get out of here. You guys got to leave. And I think that's sort of the same type of situation that you see here, to be quite honest with you, when you know what I mean, with Lake Travis, and they all wanted to make it work.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they couldn't make it work. So Little
Yeah, I
food
mean,
for thought.
I think there's going to be. I think if Baker leaves too, I would just hate it if Baker left and turned into like a Johnny, and just like shit on Cleveland.
It could happen. I mean, it probably would happen. But
It would just be so unfortunate if it went down like that. And so going back to the draft, because I know we got a mock coming up here.
yeah,
I would say this: if they draft a quarterback in the first, in the first round, are they effectively saying, "Hey, we're gonna move Baker,"
oh, absolutely.
or
I don't
are they
think you
gonna
bring
let
a
him
kid.
compete?
No, I don't think you bring in a kid, and I think it would never work. He would be too much
With the
drama.
personality, yeah.
And you know what's funny? As Mids brings up Johnny, and you brought up Johnny, right? And you said it would be shitty if Baker left and then he shit on the city like Johnny Manziel did, right?
Yeah.
And when you said that, I don't know why, but a light bulb went off in my head. And my initial thought was, well, oh well, maybe we should stop drafting these drama centric guys, and maybe we wouldn't have these problems anymore.
Yeah,
Right?
and that was the whole, Colin Cowherd,
Yeah,
thing
and it's coming true.
and I think that's Baker. I think Baker he's a counter puncher type of guy. Like if he's getting crapped on or something like that, or he feels that he's been wronged in some way, this is his personality. He is that guy. He's the guy who didn't get the offers out of high school, who had to go to, Texas Tech and, and then work his way into Oklahoma. And then he had to work his way there, and people have doubted him and people have kind of crapped on him, I think, all along the way. And, but you look at some of the moves that he's made and some of the moves that he's done, like the whole thing at Texas Tech when he didn't get the starting position handed to him, when he didn't get, a conversation about a scholarship from Kingsbury, he just up and left. And Kingsbury, like, I didn't even know he left. Yeah. I didn't know that he was even out. It's stuff like that. Like, he was just like, well, then, I mean, he like dropped the mic on them and was like, nope, that's it. You run with, Davis Webb, I think is the guy was.
Yeah.
And then, Pat Mahomes. So it worked out okay for Texas Tech, but Baker goes on to win the Heisman and has a great college career at a different school. But it's the way that he did it.
And I think you alluded earlier. I mean, he was the guy at the time to get us back to relevance. His attitude, more so than his play, took us out of the doldrums and got us to playing winning football. But, if we went through the knocks on him for, through the draft process, and they a lot of them are still exist and are out there. But the one thing, if you remember, that was always said and everybody agreed with it, because Josh Allen was the kid that had a lot of question marks, but his ceiling was, the top of the Empire State Building, and he was only on the second floor at that point. And Baker, everybody felt that he was at his ceiling, right? It was more of that he was refined. He was accurate. He wouldn't throw picks, but what you're getting today is what you're going to get 3 years from now, 4 years from now. And I mean, we haven't seen anything special, right? He surprised the league his rookie year. The second year, we blame it on Freddie Kitchens, but I mean, you go back to that tape and he was terrible, don't get me wrong, but Baker wasn't very good either. His footwork was erratic. He was all over the place. And 2020, he was horrible in the beginning of the year, and then he went on a run, and he got hot. And then, you have this year, and
but the fact that we actually have people that are considered Baker bros and Baker haters.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is in the fan base very polarizing, and it seems like we get this every once in a while. Like we got it with, we got it. The last time it was like really polarizing, I think it was like the Derek Anderson, Brady Quinn era. Where it's like, what side are you on? Right. And now it's the same thing. It's like we have a fan base that's very split. And if we have a fan base made up of human beings that are fans of the team, that have emotional investment into the team, you think about the guys who are actually paid to make the decisions for this team. You're going to have people in the building that are very one way or the other, right? And they're going to have they're going to make their decision based off of, which voices are going to be the ones that kind of like work their way up to the top. But as you said, I think with like a Kenny Pickett, if we end up saying, hey Baker, you have your offseason, you get your surgery, you're on your 5th year, and we decide to, and I don't even know what the consequences of that would be if we decide we want to pick up his 5th year, what the cap consequences are and all of that stuff.
We already picked it up. We already have it. It's done. That was done last summer.
Right, but what I'm saying is like, what if we let him go?
Or if we I don't know how much of that counts to the cap. I could look it up.
But it's like a whole bunch of different stuff like that I'm not familiar with just from that standpoint. But I mean, are there going to be teams that are interested? I bet you there are. I bet you there'd be teams that have interest in Baker Mayfield.
The Texans would take him in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I mean, it would be a good spot for him, to be honest. Like, it besides Cleveland, I think it would be a great spot for him. Would be in Houston. But I mean, again, we would then have to. I mean, God forbid. My dad says 15 teams would take him. God forbid we end up moving up and we pull a Mitch Trubisky, where we move up in the draft to grab a guy like Kenny Pickett, and then Desmond Ridder turns out to be the Josh Allen. I mean, if that happens, you're crushing your franchise like the Chicago Bears did. Crushed it. And then you got to get lucky with your next thing. And then they go and they get Justin Fields. And Justin Fields is still TBD. No guarantees out there.
They'd have to trade him because the cap hit would be 18.8 and the dead cap hit would be 18.8. So you'd have to restructure.
So you got to trade him. So you find a trade partner. Let's say you trade him to Houston. Who knows, right? Trade him to Houston. Trade him to Miami. Trade him to Tampa. Tampa needs a quarterback now. Yeah, I mean, there are places that he could go. But what I'm saying is, what happens if we swing and miss on the quarterback and he can't do at least what Baker did? You're going to have the Baker bros turning into the Pickett haters. You're going to have that. And that's the risk you run. Like, this isn't a natural transition from like Deshaun Kaiser to Baker Mayfield, right? This is a like, we'll see. Hopefully he's better, but how much of a leash or how much leeway is this fan base going to give a rookie quarterback when we have expectations to win? And we have expectations not to just win, but to win the division and compete for a Super Bowl when we have a team in the division right now who's playing in the Super Bowl, and then 2 other teams that are going to be competitive.
I have to tell you, they have me on such a roller coaster. I'm almost at the point that I could care less. Really, as terrible as that sounds, it's ho hum, same shit, different year, right? They gave us a treat last year, when everybody was home and you could hear a mouse fart in the stadium. So I mean, there was no false starts and any of that stuff. So it is what it is. We'll see what happens, but I'm not overly excited. Usually I'm still shopping on the Browns online at this point, as you know. And now I am a mediocre browser.
Yeah.
So just to throw that out there.
So let's go ahead and let's hop into our draft. Right? Let's go ahead and do a mock, and let's get fired up for this.
Who's Andrew Berry today?
You are.
Oh, you guys are going to hate me today.
You are Mr. Barry. Now,
what quarterback do we want?
PFF.
We're going to have a little fun with this today, guys.
PFF Draft Simulator. Here we go. We'll get it all fired up here.
Firing it up.
Draft. And let me get my PFF.
I don't know if you saw this, but while we were on the show, Harbaugh's staying at Michigan.
Oh, it's official?
Yeah, he told him he was staying, and Kevin O'Connell from the Rams is the front runner to. I think it's just semantics now. It's just a matter of when he's named.
For what? For the Vikings?
Yeah.
Wow.
And here's the clincher. Kevin O'Connell and Kirk Cousins were tight in Washington.
Well, that means Cousins is probably going to stay there.
Correct.
Because again, I mean, they're in the same position we are. Like, do they want to move off of Kirk Cousins after the season he put up? He's not a young guy, but he's not an old guy. And these quarterbacks now with the rules that we have in place can play till they're close to 40 years old. So a 34-year-old Kirk Cousins, he's still got 5-6 years left at a high level, right? So I think they'd be crazy to let him go at this point, right? I think it'd be nuts. But anyway, all right. So let's hop into this. We're gonna go speed down. Well, how many rounds do you want to do? You want to do 2 rounds or 3 rounds?
Let's just do 2. I didn't eat yet.
Yeah, let's do 2. We're going to go all the way down to speed. We're going to turn. I think we can leave all the rest of the stuff. Let's go more public versus PFF board. Let's go.
Hey, I see your dad out there naming these teams. Dan, would you trade me Zach Wilson for Baker Mayfield? Because I'll do that today.
You take Zach Wilson for the Jets for Baker, and that's a clear-cut upgrade for you
all day long.
Wow.
All day long. Did you see his stats towards the end of the year? He was balling. Wait till they get him another receiver to go along with Elijah Moore.
Hey, maybe he could turn out to be an okay quarterback.
Oh yeah, you watch.
I did see him play, and I wasn't impressed for the small sample size that I saw.
Did you see later in the year?
No, I think the last game I might have saw was the Jacksonville game in London.
Oh yeah, no. You had to go further down. He played really well at the end.
Well, we shall see. All right, so let's go into this. We got so we're gonna do less randomness, low speed, care for value. Here we go. 13. Enter the draft. We're going 2 rounds. All right. First of all, are you thinking about moving up at all? Are you you are thinking about
this is game time.
This is game time. All right, so we're at 13 right now. You've got Jacksonville on the clock. Are you gonna try to make any moves now, or do you want to wait till it gets closer to see what happens?
I'd like to see what happens for the first few picks.
Like 5 picks?
5's as far as I'm willing to go, yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and start the draft and let it go through the first 5. All right, so Hutchinson, Stingley, Kayvon, Kyle Hamilton, and Evan Neal. So this is what a lot of the draft has looked like.
So
give or take.
Go to quarterbacks right now.
I can't in this. Actually, I don't know if I can get to.
Oh, while you're in the.
I could probably switch to big board here and then go to position quarterbacks. So here's our guys. We've got Sam Howell.
That's funny they have Sam Howell 1. There's rumors
he's a PFF
that Pittsburgh. Yeah, I don't see that.
And I wonder if it's because of the rank, the grade from the season. No, it's not because then you'd have Kenny Pickett over Matt Corral. Don't know. So
Corral too short. Sam Howell too short.
6'1".
Yeah. You look Ritter, good size. No.
I like Ritter's. I do like Ritter's size and weight. I like everything about that.
It's the accuracy. I went back to look at my notes and yeah, yesterday he was all over the place.
You can't have an inaccurate quarterback. But you could have a guy like that turns out to be Josh Allen, who just all of a sudden figures out how to throw accurate footballs. Second year into the league. I mean, who knows? Matt Corral, 6'1".
Nope.
Kenny Pickett, 6'3". Not great size, not elite like 6'5", 6'6" size, but 6'3" is, you can see at 6'3". I mean, you put him next to Baker, and you will see you'll notice a taller guy.
The verdict is out for me that he's 6 foot. Really. You see some of those pictures? I mean, there was that one picture that somebody put out the other day. He was in the back. He was on his tiptoes. You still couldn't see his head.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Carson Strong, 6'4". Malik Willis, 6'1". Are you off of the Willis as well? Not tall enough?
At this point in juncture, if we're going to go quarterback, I need a big kid. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. I don't want any more sub 6'3" guys. You have to be 6'3" and taller to play on my team. And that's my rules.
I mean, the biggest guy is the Stanford kid who went on a 2-year LDS mission, right? So
I wonder what it would take to get up from 13 to, where are we at? 6.
We are at position number 6. And they need a quarterback.
So that's where you're going. If you want a quarterback, that's where you're going.
I mean, but who knows? The Texans could pull the trigger on one too. They could.
Yeah, I just don't see it. No, I don't either. Could the Giants with the second pick? Absolutely. I mean, well, actually, no. They just came out and
I'd be
and I don't know if it was a smoke screen, but they said Mara came out and said that they've done everything wrong for Daniel Jones and he deserves a shot. So unless that's a ton of lying, then we'll rule the Giants out of the court. 6 is where you got to go if you want your guy, and there's a clear-cut one at this point.
Because here's the deal: if we don't move up to 6, somebody else could. If they feel
the Steelers could move from 20 to 6
if they feel their guy is threatened, right? If they have a guy and they feel like that there's a threat, then 6 is where you have to be, I think, to virtually guarantee. I'd say you have like a 97% chance to get your guy at 6. But think about it like this. Let's say that we made a trade right now up to 6. Somebody could just jump ahead of us and move up to 4 or move up to 5. You think the Giants would love to trade a 5, their fifth pick, if they think they can still get Evan Neal at 7?
Oh, yeah. I see where you're going. Absolutely. I agree with you. So to your point, you could have to go to 5.
Yes.
Because there could be somebody trying to get up there.
And that's where it comes down. It's just like in this mock where like we happen to be at 5 and no trades have occurred. Now it's to say now you're going to get into the risky position because we've seen Matt Corral go 9.
Yep.
We've seen Kenny Pickett go 11. So I don't think we've seen Pickett go any. He's definitely been drafted before we've picked every time. Because I think the first draft, I could be wrong here, but I think the Vikings might have taken him. So I want to know your thoughts.
Here's what I think. I think that as soon as Baker got hurt, he should have shut it down because he didn't, and he played throughout the shoulder and said he was fine, and then made decision-making that looked like a third-string high school quarterback, right? I mean, those are the facts. Would you agree?
I mean, in hindsight, yeah, because of the way it happened.
Okay. Right? So right now, if me and you are who we're supposed to be in fantasy land right now, year 3 of in the organization, another year of tread off of Chubb's legs, another year of tread off of Miles. Are you okay with, and remember, picking up the 5th year, that was always going to happen, right? The big point of the whole thing was not offering a contract, right? So they weren't sold going into the year. Then that year happened. And now you are banking on this next year on the fact that Baker is all of a sudden going to fix his footwork and his ability to find an open man and read the defense. And I would throw this to you real quick before we decide what we're going to do here. The play that always comes back to mind is 3rd and 2 against the Minnesota Vikings. And Demetric Felton standing at
wide
the
open in the
sticks
flat. Yep.
with nobody near him, right in front of him. Either A, didn't see him. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
I just can't believe they didn't see him.
He saw him. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He saw him, but no, I don't like that scenario. He didn't see him, so he just decided that he thought he could run for it. But he had to have seen him, right? He was right in front of him. So he saw him and said, no, I'm going to tuck this ball and I'm going to run this dude over and get the first down.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what we're working with. And now there's the chance that Baker is coming back next year with all our guys chugging through their prime. Are you able to afford to do that?
Yeah. I mean, I think there are bad plays like that. And there's also good plays that you could point out as well. You know, really good plays.
Could you find a lot of real plays this year? Good plays? I can't.
I mean, there were definitely some passes this year that I was like, wow, that was an elite pass.
Well, maybe like one down that one sideline. I can't remember what game it was. But overall, I do go back and I'll pick a random game and watch the offensive plays. And there was nothing that got me excited. Like, yeah, I can't wait to run it back.
Yeah.
Now, I'm really not Andrew Barry. He's him, and he's going to make this decision. But they are right now, they are thinking about, what are we going to do? Are we going to continue with this, with trying to fix him? I mean, how many times are you going to fix somebody's footwork? Let me ask you that question.
Well, I don't I think Baker is naturally a little bit pigeon-toed. And I think that is something that you can't really fix. You have to fix that when you're like 10. You can't fix it when you're 26, 27. You can't.
Ladies and gentlemen, on 2222, our very own Mike Keeley just diagnosed Baker pigeon-toed.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear that he is. You watch him kind of run. His toes are pointed in, and he's kind of got weird feet when it comes to like how he throws. They just came out with a new like McFarlane toy of little Baker statue, and they actually got his feet correct.
Wait. Is it the little one that my brother got me for Christmas?
It's not little. It literally just came out. It's a big. I think it's the big Madden one.
I opened that and thought, oh no, what am I going to do with this? A doorstop?
Well, I mean, Tim actually, I don't think the feet are as big a problem as the height, honestly. But short quarterbacks have been successful. You can point to Russell Wilson. You can point to Drew Brees. I mean, you can point to shorter quarterbacks that have done well in the NFL. And guys who've won Super Bowls.
So we're not believing this. We're a team right now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do? What would you like to do right now? Are you in love with a quarterback? Have you gone through the process and you
in love? No, I think that I think for me, the criteria for me would be, are we throwing Baker out? Are we just cutting him loose and saying goodbye? Or is somebody calling us and saying, this is what we're going to offer you? And are we getting anything? Or are we just throwing him away and saying, you know what, we're just cutting it loose and ripping and replacing?
Well, you bring up an interesting point, because I mean, who knows? Matt Rule could like Baker Mayfield. So you could find a way
they liked Sam Darnold,
to get rid of Baker at 6 to alleviate some of the the capital you might have to give up to go from 13 to 6.
And I think those are the
it could happen.
These are the sorts of scenarios that I'd have to be interested in thinking about. But I think where I can't get behind is just saying, you know what, just like cutting, we're going to get rid of Jarvis, we're going to get rid of OBJ, and we're going to get rid of Baker and just throw them all out with really getting nothing for any of those guys. I'd rather run it back with Baker and then have a plan, like a legit plan B, than just throw him out and then have to give up a ton to move up to get somebody, like, even if it is Kenny Pickett, right? Even if it is, he's not John Elway. He's not, Andrew Luck. He's not Trevor Lawrence. He's just like, he's like the best of what's available. We don't know
what Trevor Lawrence is actually at this point.
Yeah, and then you look at a guy like Sam Howell. I've seen Sam Howell play a lot in college.
Yeah, I don't like him.
I've seen him.
Here's the thing.
And the first line, Howell may have taken a step back as a passer, but he proves he's a legit threat as a runner. Are you kidding me?
I think at the end of the day, and I don't like his height, and I wouldn't draft him, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, and Malik Willis. I think that's going to be those are going to be your three guys.
And I think here's the problem with Desmond Ridder, with his accuracy having an issue. I have a problem with that because you can be the biggest quarterback in the room. I mean, God, they had big quarterbacks before. Remember, like Kyle Bowler and like some of those guys, just big ass quarterbacks.
Oh yeah,
Bruce Gradkowski. All these guys that are big, they couldn't hit the wide side of a barn, and it's not going to help you. Then you got Matt Corral, who blew out his leg, he blew out his knee. I don't
think he did. I think it was just an ankle. He just tweaked an ankle, I think, is what it turned out to be.
All right, Chad, if you can help us out with that, just find out what the injury for Matt Corral was. But either way, it wasn't something that is, I think the conversation was between these two guys, and when he got hurt, it was like, maybe he goes backwards a little bit. And then you got Pickett, and I got to tell you, there's something I like his leadership. I like what he's done, but I mean, he came out of nowhere and had one good season, right?
Well, so did Joe Burrow.
Okay, but Pitt didn't win a national championship, right?
No, definitely not.
So I think it would be very unfair to even put Kenny Pickett even in the same.
I think the worst nightmare. Oh yeah, I don't disagree with that. But I mean, who knows? We never know, right? Nobody knows.
You're absolutely correct.
Could get drafted, and he could be Joe Burrow. Could be
Mitch Trubisky. Was the Chicago Bears? The Chicago Bears traded up for Mitch Trubisky when Pat Mahomes was right there, right? Yeah. So like, you don't know these things, right? Nobody does.
You just don't know. So just imagine drafting the stud receiver and he looks like OBJ out there because Baker can't find him, which could be a possibility. But for the sake of time, we won't trade up. We'll let the draft play out.
Hey, I mean, if you want, we have not drafted a quarterback yet, and I actually do. I could get behind. Again,
you like it. I know you do.
It's a mock draft, but we have to. I'm going through the scenarios in my head, and I'm saying, okay, this is we're doing this in a vacuum, and reality is not a vacuum. There are feelings. There are a lot of people who are very heavily invested in Baker and love the guy, and there are people who are gonna be like hallelujah if we get rid of him. There are people who bought all the jerseys and do all the stuff. Like, there are people that are like emotionally invested in Baker. And so I'm just saying there's more to it from a personal standpoint than there is just from, hey, we need another guy to throw footballs on Sunday. And so but in a vacuum, I'm not going to stand in your way and say, I have to put my foot down here and say, you cannot do this. I think if you want to make a trade and move up to 6, to get your guy at 6, I say let's play with it. Let's play the game. This is why we play the game, right? I don't know who said that, but this is why you play the games.
You play the game. It was Madden.
You play to win. And this is why you
play to win the game.
This is why you play the game.
It was I think he had a version of it, and it was one of those coaches that went on a rant. Anyway,
well, if
Yeah,
you want to
so-
play the trade game, if we want to go 13-6,
I mean, you know
what else are we giving up for this?
Let's see what it takes to get up to 6. Because, I mean, how boring is this week in and week out? We wait to get to 13, or we trade back down, and
which wide receiver
let's have a little
was
excitement.
it? Yeah. Let's see what it would take. So to get to 6, we're going to give up 13 and what? Probably. I mean,
I don't know. See if they would take 147. I don't even know if you have to give up that
we don't
much.
have 147. We've got.
Is that them? Oh, that's them. Okay. I can't see.
The reality is, in the NFL, I'll tell you this: if we want to move from 13 to 6, we're going to have to give up 13. We're going to probably have to give up a minimum of a second round pick, either this year or next, and possibly another first.
Nah, we won't have to give another one.
You don't think so?
No, not to move up there.
So
you would be able to swap your ones, and then you're gonna have to give up a 2 and possibly a 3, 4.
So boom.
We got 9 picks this year. I mean, we're not using all those picks.
So let's say that you want to go one. You just want to go like maybe 1 and 2 and see.
I'm just curious to see. I'm just curious to see what, like,
or maybe start with 1 and 3.
Like, we're just doing this to have fun with it. So we'll see what it takes to get there. Because if they fall in love with somebody, and it could be this guy who I'm going to take, we'll know what it's going to take, possibly.
Yeah. Is the computer in love with Kenny Pickett, and the computer doesn't want to give him up? But what do you want to give up for him? Like, I'm thinking we start off with a minimum.
I can't see ours.
Oh, you can't see us. Okay. Well, I'm sorry.
No.
Let's.
You could just tell me. That's fine.
Okay, so we have this going on. So 13, 45, 77, 104, 115, 154, and 191. So first, second, third. I think it's going to take a minimum of a first and a third. Like,
that's
minimum.
what I think. I think you might be able to squeeze 13 and 77, and then something next year.
Maybe throw a 4th next year.
Yeah.
All right, let's offer it. They did not accept that.
Wow. So give them a 3rd next year.
3rd and a 4th?
Just try the 3rd first. See what happens. I mean, if we run out of trade offers, I won't cry.
Oh, they took it.
So that's all it took.
So it took our first this year and 2/3. And remember this: we get a free we get a free 3rd this year and next year.
Yes, we do.
So basically, we just swapped it for free. Because
Correct.
Literally, we gained. It's not like
This is looking better every second.
It's basically we moved up there for free. You just pulled off the trade of a lifetime here. If he turns out to be a legend at quarterback, you just pulled off a legendary move because we got the free draft picks in the 3rd. Chat likes it as well. It's a good move, guys. Hold on. Super chat came in. Tyrone says, where's my super chat? There we go. Great show as always, boys. Appreciate what you all do. Thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
For that. All right. So we've got, we're on the clock at 6. Let me try to make this look a little bit better here, because I'm starting to get, maybe if I do this. That make it a little bit better for everybody? There we go. That's a little bit better. It might be a little bit harder to see, but nonetheless, at least we got it there. So we got the whole thing on the screen. Okay. So
let's go get small hands.
You've got your guy. You got your guy number 6. Here we go. Let's just show a little bit more here, just so we know who we're getting. Now we've got the ESPN guys that are talking about it. Single biggest star riser at the quarterback position. Pickett didn't earn a single sub 70 game all year after managing only 10 big time throws in 2020. Pickett totaled 29 this season. his 4th year as a starter. Pickett looks decidedly different. Just one kind of iffy game there, but I mean, really, really solid.
Throwing touchdowns.
So that's it. Let's get our guy. We're just take Kenny Pickett, and the Baker Mayfield era has officially ended in this world. All right, so now we got
Bye-bye.
and you still got your second round pick. Amazing.
That we do.
All right, so let's see who else. Matt. All right, so hold on. Let's pause here. Matt Corral goes number 9. So maybe he might have been. So Kenny Pickett might have still been there. First off, maybe in this world, but Denver might have said, we want Pickett. Yep. I'd be surprised at that, but they could have. But they go with Matt Corral. Everybody else is pretty normal from what we've seen as well.
Let's roll it on.
Washington takes a corner. Sam Howell then gets picked by the Vikings.
Interesting.
The Ravens take the linebacker. Linderbaum goes to the Eagles. Look at this. The first wide receiver off the board is Garrett Wilson at 16.
That's wild. You're starting to see. I mean, if it's not us that move up, I'm glad that we did this like this.
Yeah.
Because of it, what it shows is people are going to move up to get a quarterback. It's going to happen. It happens every year. So you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, it took to pick 16 for the first wide receiver to go off the board. So if we're content with running it back, there's a good chance that whoever we want will be on the board at 13 at wide receiver. So
sure.
This was a nice little teaching moment.
I think it will. And I think, honestly, if we, let's say Olave is there or London's there in the mid 20s, are we jumping it back into the first round to grab a quarterback and a wide receiver? Is that something that you'd be willing to do? So we'll have to see.
Yeah, trust me, I was already scheming that.
All right, so here we
Depending on who's there.
Right. So far just Garrett Wilson from wide receivers out the board. Let's continue resuming. All right, there goes London. There goes Olave. So now they're gone. Now they're going.
There you go.
Boom, boom, boom. Pittsburgh takes Willis. Trent McDuffie goes to New England. Devin Lloyd, linebacker, goes to Raiders. Cardinals take Davis, defensive tackle. There's Jamison Williams going to Cowboys. Jahan Dotson's gone.
It's never going to happen. He's not going to the Bills. He'd still be on the clock.
There goes Treylon. Andrew Booth. And rounding out the first round, you get corner out of Auburn.
Who's on the board still, wide receiver wise?
Okay. Well, let me take off quarterback here. Okay, so these guys are gone. Olave, Jahan.
Burks is still out there?
No, Burks was drafted.
Okay.
He's gone. So now you got Sky Moore, Jalen Tolbert, Justin Ross, 6'4" Justin Ross.
You know who I really like? And he put on a show at the Senior Bowl. Christian Watson.
Huh. I don't even know where he's.
He's going to start creeping his way up, but he's down there somewhere, I'm sure.
Trey Turner was pretty good for Virginia Tech.
He played at a school out west. I'm trying to think of the name. I want to say it's where Carson Wentz played, maybe. But if you get a chance, and then Chad, if you guys haven't had a chance yet, or anybody listening, go and watch some film on Christian Watson.
Okay. I'm interested. But in terms of who you got left here, it's now Sky Moore, so the speedy.
You love him.
I like the speed. I got to tell you, I like the speed. I like that he offers a dynamic, but I think the problem is I don't think he can be a number one.
Well, And think of it this way: if this draft played out the way it just happened, they already have landed a free agent wide receiver that they feel really good as a number one.
And here, historically, free agent wide receivers, whether it's Dwayne Bowe, who's Kenny Britt, any free Andre Rison going back to the 90s. I mean, free agent wide receivers don't typically do really well for Cleveland. We got to get these homegrown guys. But nonetheless, Jarvis was a different guy who worked out pretty well. So, but here we go. So in terms of wide receivers, you've got Sky Moore, Tolbert out of South Carolina, which I don't know a lot about him. Justin Ross, I've seen him play a lot. Again, an ACC guy.
I like George Pickens too.
And George Pickens is down there, and so is John Mechie. So, I mean, there's David Bell's down there too. So, I mean, you got some players.
You let it play out.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we can get here. All righty. On the clock is Detroit. Let's resume. Detroit takes Brisker, safety out of Penn State. Texans take Kennard, tackle out of Kentucky. David Bell wide receiver goes to the Jets.
Kennard was absolutely mauled yesterday by, I think that kid I think he goes to Miami. Jermaine, I can't think of his last name, defensive end. He has a motor.
Interesting. Desmond Ridder, there's the Bears say, we're not sold on Justin Fields. We're going to go with Desmond Ridder at 39, which would be again, wild scenario. I could see Desmond Ridder possibly going to the Falcons at 40. So it's not all that wild that I think Desmond Ridder could be drafted. I just don't think he would go to the Bears.
Yeah, I agree.
Resume draft. All right. So the Falcons take Hill cornerback out of Michigan. Carson Strong goes to the Broncos at 41. Jermaine Johnson, the edge.
Didn't the Broncos take a quarterback in the first round? Didn't they take Corral?
The Broncos took Corral in the first round.
And Carson Strong in the second? This is a terrible AI.
That is amazing.
We got to try DraftKings, Draft Network.
You know what probably happened there? They were like, you know what? We know that Corral still has that injury, and we know we got to move now. So let's go ahead and go with Carson Strong in the preseason, and then
oh my god,
what a horrible pick that would be.
Who is my favorite tight end still out there?
I believe he is. Trey McBride is there.
Get him a toy. Get our new guy another toy.
So that would give you your two picks. You got Trey McBride and you got Kenny Britt. If you want me to take him, I will. Let's look at the wide receivers.
Did you say Kenny Britt? You did.
I said Kenny Britt. He was on it. Kenny Pickett.
I thought, wait, what?
Kenny Britt's playing quarterback again? My gosh. Yeah, that would be a dark era for Cleveland. Sky Moore is the only guy. Sky Moore's there. I do like Justin Ross. I think he could be a second round pick. I think Pickens and Mechie are second round picks as well. But I don't know if they're number one guys. You can go in there and be number one.
Just out of curiosity, what was is that 55 Sky Moore's average draft position?
Average draft position 88.
88. Wow. So he'll probably be there. What's McBride's?
51. So he goes right around here.
Yeah. I'd be okay with that.
All right, let's grab him. We got you a quarterback and a tight end. And then
bye Hooper.
That's all we could do. We could probably offer a trade if you want to come back into the second. But you don't have a third round pick right now to be able to do that.
I do, but I don't. They just haven't given it to us yet.
Correct.
Which I'm interested to see what number that is when it comes in.
It's got to be the last pick in the draft.
Yeah, I would think so.
How amazing would it be if it was the first pick in the third round?
Yeah, that would be nice.
It'd be uncharted territory there. Justin Ross goes to Clemson, or from Clemson goes to the Bills. Did the Bills take a wide receiver in the first round too? They took John Dodson
which would never happen.
And Justin Ross. Like, this is amazing. Kenneth Walker 2. Brandon Smith. Falele goes 61. We've drafted him in the past. George Pickens goes to the Chiefs at 62. Bengals take a halfback, and we finalize with, I don't know. But this is your pick, so let's write it down, Mike. We got Kenny Pickett. We moved up.
What was he at?
We took
Where
him
did we
at
to get him?
Took him at 6. Gave up 1377, and then our 3rd round pick next year. So again, you basically just swap 13 for 6 because we got those free picks.
Yep. Done. So what would be really interesting though is if we traded. I want to go back to the full results. Is who did they end up taking? They took Charles Cross, the tackle, at 13. So they got it. They got their tackle. Because they couldn't have gotten, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this guy's name, the tackle out of NC State. So they could have gotten him, but they ended up with Charles Cross. Where did that defensive end that I was talking about go?
Majai Sanders, or
no,
somebody else?
Miami, the kid that I was talking about.
University
I want to say
Miami.
his first name.
I don't even know. I don't think I saw University of Miami go in the first 2 rounds.
I think are you able to go to the defensive ends?
I can't see it by position.
Oh, like if you just got out of there.
Oh, if I go in here and just go to
yeah, I'm just curious. I want to say his first name was Jermaine, but I could be wrong.
All right.
There he is.
Jermaine Johnson. He's the Florida State
Johnson,
guy.
Florida State. I knew it was a Florida team. I just couldn't think. If you get a chance, I believe he was going against Kennard from Kentucky, who's a solid tackle prospect. And I mean, he just annihilated him. And it wasn't, well, I mean, what he did to that kid was pretty wild. But I mean, he was just a force all day in practice, and the highlights that I saw, he was pretty bad. It was good.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that was a pretty good mock. I think honestly,
I enjoyed it.
That was a fun one because it was different. We didn't just go back to wide receiver.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I do still love. I think that can you go back to the previous drafts that we have? You have them written down, right?
Yeah.
So the one that we got, the wide receiver, we got 2 wide receivers. We got Sky Moore. I forget who we got in the first round. We got Sky Moore in the second, and Trey McBride. It might have been the one that we did last week.
It
was one that we had 3 picks.
The first one was Burks at 13, Wyatt at 45. Then the next one was Burks, Wyatt, McBride, and Sky Moore.
Oh, that one I like.
Because we did 3 rounds, I think. And yeah, because 77 is the 3rd round. And then tonight, Pickett and McBride.
So I think last week the one that we got Sky Moore?
Yes.
And who was the wide receiver we got? Treylon?
Yep.
Okay. I like that. And McBride. So if we were going to run it back with Baker or, Kirk Cousins or whoever happens to be playing quarterback that's not a rookie, I like that draft last week for that. But
yeah.
Because do we have a defensive player in there? We had Wyatt
last week. Wyatt was the interior D lineman.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's like we have improved. But that's 4 starters we have. Yeah. 4 starters to go along. I mean, you could give those 4 starters to Baker too, and I think Baker does okay. So, well, I'll tell you what, guys. I had fun tonight. We are at an hour and 46 here, and my wife and my daughter just got back from gymnastics, which signals to me that it's time. So I like the draft. I like the draft this week. I think it was a good one. I think it's different, and it would signal a different direction. But that just tells you guys how every week that goes on, we're getting new information, new things are popping up, new ideas are popping into our head. Whereas that first draft, I think we had talked quarterback a little bit. The first couple, we talked about it, but never to the point where we're like, you know what? I think we need to actually pull the trigger. And this is the first week that we did it. So very cool. All right, Mike. I'll tell you what. Thank you guys, everybody, for being here. Tim Zayler, Michelangelo, Xander's here. Ray was in the house. Norman, my dad was here. Who else do we have? Oh, Tyrone coming through. Tyrone and Yusha with the super chats. Thank you guys very much.
Serial Schiller.
Serial's in the house. I didn't see Mike R though.
That's because I keep signing into the wrong one. I'm Michelangelo.
Okay, there you go. All right, guys. Thank you very much. And Mike, you got anything to send us off with?
No, nothing. Another week. Another week of drama. Just happened to be not the quarterback. The hits keep coming.
Interestingly, right?
I mean, the last thing I'll say is it will be really nice to eventually get to a point where we have a team and we don't have to deal with any of this BS constantly, just giving ammunition to, the social media platform and the Baker Wars, and it's all silly. We just need to get a team, bunch of guys that put their head down, they want to work, and we finally get to a point where we want to be, that a perennial basement dweller like ourselves is there 2 years later, 2 years post worst record, and
earning a spot.
Absolute stud at quarterback. So we can dream. That's all we can do, is continue to dream and continue to spend money and all that jazz. But it's what it is.
It is what it is. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We'll see you same time next week, sometime between 7 and 7:30, depending upon what time I get my daughter to bed. And we'll see you then. Thank you guys, and go Browns.
Go Brownies.